Welcome to the Reese Report. I'm the mouth of the North, Andrew Reese. And look who I have here. Beyond is back. That's right. He's back prior to the Raptors season and after the conclusion of the preseason where the Raptors went 4-0 and looked very, very good with their new coach. But it's just the preseason. And I have questions on my mind that I need to have answered. So I have a bunch of guests coming on, and Beyond is one of my favorites. Old school, new school, knows his stuff, around the same age as me, the perfect person to talk to with basketball. Enjoy listening to him, enjoy talking to him, enjoying being on spaces with him, setting people straight, including myself, and vice versa. It is just great. So we're gonna do Raptors today, even though we can talk about anything because we're sports lovers. But tonight is about the Raptors because the season is about to start. And I have stuff that's bothering me. I need to ask questions because you see, Masai Ujiri really didn't give me many answers. The organization doesn't really give me any answers. So I go to the Raptors fan to get answers. So I feel better about the start of the season. Although I'm quite happy going into this season, unlike some Raptors fans. But let's see what Beyond thinks. How are you doing, Beyond? Everything good?
I'm good, man. I'm looking forward. I'm very optimistic about the season, and I'm looking forward to it, man. It's about time to start back talking some hoops.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with Grady Dick. Someone who I'm very happy as a Raptor, someone we drafted 13th overall, someone I've been watching very closely in the preseason. My question to you is how much of an impact is he going to have this year on the Raptors?
I think with Grady, if he can play with the right players in this case, and I think I saw some promise last night, I guess the last Raptors game, where he was playing more with Siakam and to some extent Barnes. I think that will help him in the long run. I think a lot of times early in the preseason as well as summer league, the talent around him just wasn't good enough to kind of show what he can do. And I think right now playing with those two guys will really bring out the best in him.
Yeah, he needs to be with passers and guys who will find him when he's open. I mentioned this yesterday when I talked with Nelly J. He could have had 30 last night, and I'm not joking because if you watch that game, there were a number of times he was wide open in the corner, no one even guarding him, and he was not found by uh, Dennis. A couple of times Malachi missed him. I mean, he could have had 7 or 8 threes yesterday. He made 4 out of 5 and ended up with 12 points. And he was so confident yesterday. He was doing the show off symbol with the three in his arms. So hey, when you're hot, you're hot.
Yeah, I think like one of the things I liked is that if you could play him with smart players, he'll get better with that because he's a pretty smart player in his own right. And the other thing too is because early in the season he's got to get used to the NBA speed. Playing him with guys that command double teams will give him a little extra a second or so more to kind of get his shot and his feet and everything locked in. If he's playing with lesser talent, he won't get as much time to get that shot off. So at least for now. So I think right now, if they could get him playing more, it's particularly with Siakam, it would be great.
Yeah, he didn't play too much with the starters, and his minutes were kind of lower than I thought they would be. Is that a telling sign, or will we get to see him play more meaningful minutes, or will it take time?
It will take time. I think the other thing to consider too is Trent didn't play. So part of
Right.
what you were seeing with Trent minutes that he was essentially playing with that role.
Correct.
Uh, yeah, I don't know what it will look like once Trent's back, but it was promising that he was up so early in the rotation, which makes me feel he's probably part of the 10 man rotation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be a shame if he's not in the 10. He's got so much skill that the team could need, and that's why we drafted him. So hopefully Darko finds a spot for the young man. Now let's go to probably our the most favorite most talked about topic in the world of the Raptors, the enigma that is Scotty Barnes. You and I have had many conversations about Scotty Barnes, along with coach and hopeful. Um, Simple question: will he take a leap that is significant, that makes him the number two option, and impacts winning most nights, if not every night, on his way to perhaps being an all-star in the future?
Um, the last part is still in doubt, but I think
Correct.
what we're seeing right now is the maturation of Barnes as a player, and I think we're kind of like almost a year behind what it should have been. I think me and some others in this case have asked for the 48 minutes of effort, not just kind of showing up in the fourth quarter. And now you're seeing that, you're seeing a certain maturity, a lot more focus from the tip of the game. And literally, that's really all I was asking for last year. I wasn't even asking for half the other stuff in this case that he still needs to do. But that, at least doing that alone, he's still so physically gifted that he could get his 15, 16 points, maybe even 18 if he's on a good day, just doing that without like the actual shot making and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great in the preseason. He did sprain his foot. Hopefully, it's not too serious. He made 50% of his threes, which I was not expecting. Still a very slow release. I still prefer him being inside and going down low and running downhill on guys. But his game's pretty open right now because of the passing that was happening in the new offense. So I said it yesterday. I think Darko can unlock him a little bit and make him feel a little more comfortable with the ball. And if he varies his game, he'll be more difficult to guard. Defensively, he should be better as well because maybe he won't be so gassed at the end of games with the bench depth, which we will get to next. Um, Beyond, I have no nice way to say this. Our bench was horrific last year. Um, we were 29th in the NBA in bench points. For those who don't know, there's only 30 NBA teams, so that means they were second last. Um, I know there are a lot of Raptor fans who say they didn't get a fair chance. Let me tell you, they got their chance. They were ineffective. We blew big leads when they came on the floor in less than 2 minutes. This is one of those situations where I'm not blaming Nick Nurse. We did not have a bench last year. This year, we have pieces that can be effective. Congrats, Darko. You have a possible 10-man rotation where last year we maybe had six. Having said that, Beyond, it can't get much worse, but how much better can it get? Where will the bench rank this year?
Well, let's just give some perspective, right? A year ago, Chris Boucher arguably the first guy coming off the bench. We're
Yep.
right now about to head into tip off at the beginning of the season, and we're not quite sure if Chris Boucher will make the rotation of 10 men, right? Like
Yep.
that shows you how far or how deep, in this case, the bench has gotten in 1 year. Overall, I think the bench, this is an interesting roster construction where a lot of the playmaking guys are all in the starting lineup, but all those guys that can actually shoot the ball are all in the second unit. it's,
Yeah.
it's a weird
Yeah.
scenario. You don't usually see that in most NBA teams. And I think going back to your last point about Scotty, I think you might end up seeing two types of Scotties. A starting unit Scotty, where I think is the one you described earlier, but the one that you are hoping for, I think you will see that one play out more with second units, where he will be posting up more because there'll be no Pirtle there. He'll be kind
Yeah.
of be much
Yeah.
right, and he will be the hub to kick out these shooters.
Yeah, absolutely. Or going downhill as Pascal can do. We haven't talked much about Pascal, but he has just been very quietly effective, and I like that. You know, he's the best player on the team. Everybody knows that, but like I like when he makes his shots and he just sits down and says, "Yeah, I know I can do that." Just sits there, waits for
Yeah,
someone to pick him up.
exactly. I think what Darko's offense, and this is what I was kind of hoping for last season, to be kind of be introduced. I don't even just make this a Siakam thing. I think overall the type of team we have, the type of players we have, they're instinctive players. So, and that's no shot at them when I say so. They just play with instinct. They're instinctive. They're rhythm-based type players, and therefore, if you play a much more quicker pace, there's less thinking for them to do, which can cause issues. And
Yeah.
I think, it's not that Siakam can't play that because he's quite effective. He scored 24 a night last year, but I think this will just actually, help his game even more because he will be, he'll make quick decisions and be aggressive at the same time without having to worry or think about, well, where's this double going to come from and stuff like that. And he can still do that when necessary, but I think this will really help his game, sharpen up his game, and hopefully increase his efficiency.
Yeah, I think with the new offense, the way they're moving the basketball, it can only open up space. Even without shooting, if you move the basketball quick enough and make enough back picks, it's going to open up space generally by naturally moving the defense. So we'll see how that starting lineup is effective or not. But I think they will have to stagger it with shooters. But that again leads to my next question, and that is beyond. You're the coach. It's not Darko. It's you. Who's your starting lineup and who's closing the game for you this season?
Who's my starting lineup, and then who's closing the last 5 minutes of the game or something like that.
Yeah, you need to win the game. Who's closing it out and how are you starting the game?
I'll play it safe. I mean, starting the game, the five he has so far, which seems to be the starters. So Scotty, OG, Pascal, Perto, Schroeder. The final five will be interesting, and this is
Yes.
where the decisions are going to get very interesting. I think you can get away most nights with a closing five of Barnes, Siakam, OG, Trent Jr., and Schroeder. And the reason why I picked this five is I still have concerns about Perto late in games. The free throw shooting, I think it actually will be better this year, but his lack of shot making, I think, ends up being a real. Um, it becomes a real issue for us late in games.
Yeah, I completely agree with this, and I'm glad I'm interviewing a multitude of people to see how different the answers are. I really think we're going to see that small lineup a lot with Scotty at center. Is that what you were thinking, Scotty at center in the
Oh
small
yeah,
ball lineup? Yeah,
yeah. He's the only one's got the frame to actually handle that a little bit. And I think if you're playing, even say Chicago the other night, you can get away with Scotty playing Vucevic, right? Like you can get away with that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Most centers in the league, you could probably get away playing Scotty at center late in games.
Hmm.
There's the certain exceptions. We know who they are, but
Yes.
yeah, outside of maybe 4 or 5 teams, you could probably get away with the other ones. In this case, playing Scotty late in games at
Yeah, I
center.
mean the East is pretty big. I was mentioning to Nelly, it's like I'd like him at center, but the East is pretty big. A lot of East teams have centers, especially at the
Yeah,
top. Porzingis, Embiid, Giannis, even Capella. The Knicks have Mitchell Thomas, so there are some big guys in there.
true. But if you look at the centers you described in this case, how many of them play a power game, right? You're playing
True.
Porzingis. You want mobility. So Scotty should be fine in that sense. In that sense, he's not gonna power anybody in the post. Porzingis. Take Bam for example. Bam's the same size as Scotty, so it's like
Yep.
it doesn't matter in this case here. I mean, there's a couple of guys we know who they are. Embiid is one. Now, and honestly, if you play it right, you probably could get with Scotty against Embiid as well too, because Embiid has a natural instinct to fade further and further back as games go on and rely on
Yep.
a jump shot. So in some ways, you might be able to get away with that in certain circumstances with Philadelphia. The only teams that would concern me would be even Denver. We found that OGs be effective, so maybe that team's. I mean, the more I think about it, there might not be too many teams. The Milwaukee's a team is huge. That's a team you
Yeah.
can't get away with that.
Lakers.
Lakers to some extent, maybe. I mean, because AD, depending on what mood's he in, like maybe you can get away with it. But Milwaukee's one team you can't get away with that. Where you're going to need a center.
Yeah, and when I heard about Scotty gaining the weight and thinking about him being like 240, I'm like, that's like a center, like not a center, but like a power forward build, not really a point guard build. So I was like, wow, they're really going to try him in late situations, in the post or towards the center position, especially with Koloko out. And when you have a respiratory problem, like it could be forever or tomorrow. Like no one really know, and he's not in basketball shape. Like it's going to take a while for him to come back, I think. What are your thoughts on Koloko now that we've mentioned it? Like this is not a good sign that he's been out this long with a respiratory problem.
No, this is very concerning, disappointing, but more concerning. I hope the young man's better and gets back to be able to play soon. It was good seeing him on the bench the other night, which is maybe a positive because we hadn't even seen him physically with the
Yeah.
team. So that's I take that as a positive, which is good. Um, he's just from a pure basketball standpoint, um, he's a lot more important for this team than I think a lot of people realize.
I agree.
He could be, we talk those closing lineups. I had a lot in my mind initially at the start of the season. I actually saw him finishing a lot of games for us as the five,
Yeah.
obviously, and we'll see. if he could get himself back in some type of shape, maybe after 20, 25 games, he could get into the rotation perhaps, and that would be great.
Mhm. Yeah, it's kind of sad. He really hasn't played much basketball, and it's going to be really tough for him. But I hope he comes back because I agree with you. Like he's got a body where he's the perfect backup for Pirtle, and if not a spot starter. And now that he's not there, you have a hole there, and you have a hole at backup point guard. So a couple of holes, even though we got a nice bench, which could hurt us. But Schroeder, I don't want Schroeder playing like 38 minutes a night. I don't think that's going to make him less effective. So
Yeah, I don't think I would worry too much about that because I think the point guard responsibilities are going to go a lot to Scotty, the second unit, or Pascal. So I think
yeah,
Schroeder will get his rest. Um, as far as going back to Koloko, I think what hurts as well too is that Koloko could erase so many issues of guys that are not great defenders on the perimeter. So take Grady for example. Having a guy at Koloko backing him up would definitely help his own growth and development because
yeah,
like Koloko has a special skill, just like how Grady has a special skill for scoring or shooting. Koloko is a shot blocking.
yeah.
Those are things you can't teach. Those guys just have it or you don't. And he was starting to show real growth in that near the end of the season. And yeah, I really hope he can get back because I think offensively he could be a little more dynamic than Pirtle. I think if he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, I think when we drafted Dick, I thought to myself, well, if he's going to be coming off the bench, then Koloko will be important because he's going to need a shot blocker behind him. Even though Grady showed really good defensive instincts all through the preseason and even in the summer league, he'll need some help until he grows into the game and learns the speed. So we'll see. Couple of concerns, but still liking the team. Now I'm going to ask you to put your GM hat on because Beyond, we sat and wasted our time for an hour listening to Masai Ujiri dribble and not give us any answers. And so as a result, I will ask the Raptors fan and people that come on my show for some answers because Masai just doesn't give us anything. And so I'll ask you this, Beyond, which of Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent Jr., or OG will be Raptors after the trade deadline?
So you're saying who will still be playing on the team that won't be traded, or you're saying who will be
I-
resigned
am
to that?
saying of those three guys who are on 1 year deals, who will still be here after the deadline and who will be gone?
I would. Who's the likeliest?
It's tough. It's tough.
If I'm betting man and say who's the likeliest, in some ways I can see OG actually being the likeliest.
That's the only one to me because he's the one who's kind of said that he wants to leave, whereas Pascal and Gary seem to want to stay. Although Gary made it very clear he wants to start and get paid the other night, so that was interesting. Gary, make yourself the best six man. You'll still get paid. Trust me. Don't worry about it. All right. Pascal has indicated he wants to stay, but OG has made it clear he wants a better role. And if you watch him in the preseason, I don't know if you agree, but he seems kind of lost on this team right now. Like, what
Yeah,
do you think?
to be fair, I think the last game was his best game.
Yes.
But to your point, I agree where you're coming from. I think it's interesting because I think Darko sees him as a 3 and D guy, but
Right.
OG doesn't see himself as a 3 and D guy. Like
Correct.
I've been checking, and Hopeful's been checking how many what's the percentage of 3 point shots he's taking on his shot chart or his shot diet, and it's increased. Let's put it that way. It's a high percentage of threes.
Yep.
Um, he got a chance to kind of exploit some opportunities against Washington where you had a few mid range. You got a couple, ISOs to get the basket, which was a little something different I'd seen compared to most of the preseason. But that's
Yep.
something to watch. Just put it that way.
Yeah. Obviously it depends on how good we do the first couple of months and what our record is towards the deadline. But then again, we're dealing with Masai here, and he's let a lot of players go for nothing. So that's why I ask, what if you're the GM, because we know Masai, we don't know what's going to happen when it comes to Masai. Anything can happen at any time. So we shall see. Well, this will be an easy one for you. You can give me a detailed answer or just a yes or no. Will we miss Fred VanVleet?
Who you don't want this spread.
No. So I could,
Sorry,
I
I
could,
don't know.
I agree. I like the iteration of this team. You know what I find interesting, John, is that Me, you, hopeful, and coach early on were on this train. We said, look, I like these moves. The fit's better. I think we'll be a better team. I put a tweet out saying we'll win 44 games. It got my most retweeted and liked tweet of all time. Thank you all out there. I don't think it's a stretch to ask us to win 3 more games when we won 41 games with the most disjointed, fragmented organization with coaches and players fighting, defense playing bad, just horrible 3-point shooting, ISO ball all day. To ask to win 3 more games with this new coach and new offense with a better bench is not asking a lot. Um, but
I would just simplify last season as this. Imagine Pascal played the whole season, he missed 10 games,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
We were 5-5 during that stretch. We
yes,
probably would have
5-5.
been maybe 8-2 in that stretch because it was like the weakest stretch of the year. I think when it came to that, we had the weakest teams those kids were playing at the time. A lot of Detroit's, a lot
Yeah,
of Indiana's at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, if Pascal's healthy and you go on that same stretch, there's your 3 games probably sitting right there almost. So
yeah,
I didn't think it was your point. It had to be that much. So I agree with you.
yeah. And as far as Fred goes, look, Fred did a lot of great things for us. It was time for him to go. He got the bag. I don't know what Masai was thinking going to take a plane to get him back, but that's another story for another day. Good luck to Fred and with Dylan Brooks. That should be a lot of fun in Houston. But we needed a change, and we got our changes at coach. And we said it all year when we were talking about the team last year. Fred and Nick have just got to go. It's nothing personal. It's just team fit and for the team to move forward. It had to happen for the development of players that are currently on the team. So uh, pretty easy one there for us all. And finally, the last question I have, and then we'll do some, additional comments if you want to mention Darko or somebody else. The Raptors record this season and what seed they will be. What do you got, Beyond?
I've been on record saying, well, I had a range. So if I had to split the range, now I'm looking at about 45 wins.
Yep.
I can see
Okay.
them as high. I can see them as high as a 6 seed, maybe a 5 seed, depending on how the East is. Somewhere around there. I can see them winning as much as 47 or so games or 48.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like strange to say so, but like we literally won 48 games 2 years ago with a worse team. If you had to go and look for
That's
a Washington, we had no
absolutely
center.
correct.
We
Yep.
had Thad pretty much running center for us at most points. Like that's the type of team we had. I'm just saying that, folks. Like, it's not mind boggling. If I recall last year, the 6th seed was Brooklyn with 43 wins. I think the
Yeah.
Knicks were the 5th seed and they won at 47, maybe, I think. So, like,
47.
it's not out of the range to win 47, 48 games and be a 5 seed. Like, that's not crazy talk in this case here. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we also went 1-9 against the top 3 seeds. So if we can somehow sneak out some games against Milwaukee, Boston, and Philadelphia, then there's your wins right there. Um,
Well, yes, true, but I would say the easier thing might be is we could actually get wins against teams we should have beaten. I remember a game against
yes.
Minnesota, we were up like 18 points, and we blew
Yeah.
that game. A game
Yeah. We
against
let
Atlanta,
D'Angelo Russell go crazy. Yep.
right? The Atlanta game in this case, the one where Siakam was hurt and Sky scored 29 or something like that. Adrian
Yeah.
Griffin got beating everybody. We had the game won. We had the game won
Yeah.
twice.
I think we lost 3 games to Atlanta, 2 of which we should have never lost in
Right.
overtime. It just,
Yeah.
bad losses like that. Orlando swept us last year. That can't
There's
happen.
another one. Right. We believe that game.
So
Yeah. So there's games where it's like you just look back. It's like we don't even go with the big boys. We just pick games that are just like Orlando, Minnesota, and Atlanta are world beaters. Like we should have had those games right just off the top.
yeah, I think Utah too. Like we've got to beat the teams we should beat. Those are the ones that we
Yeah.
need to worry about. The Houston's of the world. We always beat Sacramento. We own them for some reason. But there are a lot of good teams, but the teams we should beat, we need to beat. Like Washington, beat them by 40. Just don't let them hang around and just beat them down. That's it. You
Yeah.
got to beat those teams. We did sweep Charlotte, so that was good. But yeah, that's the main thing. That's how you make the playoffs. You beat up on the teams you should.
You got my Pistons this for once in this case. So.
We were like we had a losing record against that team until last year. We finally beat them up last year, but they swept us the year before.
Oh yeah.
So even the 48 win season, I think they swept us the 48 win season.
Mm-hmm.
So like Casey, just that's his championship right there, man.
Right.
Um, but
There's your 50 wins for that season right there. Right.
there you go.
Maybe all of
There you go.
a
Right.
sudden you have home court.
Yeah. So take care of your business, Raptors. There's no reason you can't. You're a young team. You've got obviously a couple of vets there that I don't think are going to play very much, but I think it was Hopeful that pointed out you kind of need those vets around. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You want to wait, use roster spots on that, but I think there's at least four guys that aren't going to see the floor, um, and the talent is there. I Did you want to mention anything about Darko? Do you like what you've seen from him so far?
Um, yes, I was a little concerned at first, and from a communication standpoint of what he's kind of putting out there. I didn't really like how he was speaking about Siakam, to be honest with you.
Yes.
And some of the other stuff was concerning me. I still kind of wonder a little bit about putting Precious as the hub, which I still wait to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
But overall, I do like the fact that he's given role definition and kind of guys know where they're supposed to be and what their role is on the team. Um, I do like how he's so far. It's still early, but I can see where he's starting to mix and match certain players, what makes sense to me. So that so far, for the most part, so
Mhm.
far so good. But we'll
Yeah.
see. But
Yeah. The good news is that the players seem to be buying into his type of basketball, the ball movement, the back picking, the running without the basketball. That's a really good sign because they were so stagnant last year on offense, just pure iso ball with people standing around watching. That's not a good sustainable brand of basketball. So hopefully they buy in. I will say I don't ever want to see Chris Boucher at center again. How do you foul out in a preseason game? Like it's just the refs aren't even trying to call fouls. This guy's fouling out of a preseason. He cannot play center. Darko, please.
he's going to be interesting one to watch as now we're almost getting the full complement of our team back. Does he make the 10-man rotation? I'm not sure he does. I don't
Well,
know. Like,
I don't know.
yeah, like I don't know if I've seen like last year he and Precious play a lot together as like the front court. I don't know if Darko has the patience to put both of them out there together playing together. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
that's going to be a tough one. There's a lot of small forwards on this team, and not enough spaces for them all. So that does concern me with regards to Grady as well. Like with so many players on that bench now, it's going to be tough for them to figure out the minutes. But hopefully, the right players are on the floor at the right time. But we'll see. Darko's got a job to do still. So that's all my questions for the show today. I'd like to thank Beyond for coming on the show. I always love talking basketball with him. We are going to have Hopeful on. Curly's coming on the show. We're going to have JD as well. So I still got three more to come. But that was Beyond's thoughts on the Raptors before the season starts. We will have him back because, as I said, I'm relaunching the show, and there's going to be a lot of Raptors content, maybe some NBA content as well. I do NFL as well, so um, but there's going to be some interesting stuff when the first game starts. Um, so that's our show. I'd like to thank Beyond for coming on. As I said, I'm the mouth of North Andrew Reese. That's Beyond the Locker Room, and I'll see you next time on the Reese Report.